Great.
All right, I don't want to offend you or anything and
I'm not.
misrepresent
I'm
you.
not easily offended.
You picked the right podcast, my friend.
I neither condone nor abide by this fucking recording session happening in my kitchen.
Psychedelic Space Beef Band. God damn it.
She's hungry for Mongolia barbecue and dick.
Basically, what's going to happen is every week we're going to offer to suck Mark in.
Steven, do you realize how bad of an idea this was? This is an idiotic.
So it's another episode. Yeah, exactly. How Backstreet Boys. It's like, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing?
Shit, we got to be over here.
Like, as a friend, come on, guys.
An incredibly poor decision and literally betrays everything that the beef sesh is about.
All right, Steve, hit us.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Lost Beat 6 show number 22. We got Ryan. He's back. Ryan Pressman.
Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us again on the Lost Beat 6 podcast. Introduction by Punish Steve. Can't thank you enough, Steve. We've got Rich Vreeland on today, composer for media, visual media like films, video games. You may know him from It Follows and games like Fez, Hyper Light Drifter. He usually puts out music under the name Disasterpeace. And here we are, Rich. Thank you for coming down.
Hey.
We've also got Bobby, sound designer from Obsidian Video Game Development Company. He's worked on games such as South Park: The Stick of Truth.
That's almost true.
He's worked on he's working on Knack 2.
Yeah. Game of the year, 10 out of 10. Calling it right now.
Game of the Year.
Game & Watch 64.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you got that,
the
and
classics.
you got me, Ryan. I compose for a bunch of crap you never heard of, and no, we're
Wow.
here to talk to Rich about his illustrious career, and let's get to it, shall we?
Sure.
So, Rich, tell us a little about what it was like growing up. What are your influences?
No.
Fuck you.
Let me reference the notes.
Just kidding.
So I did a little bit of background research. I've listened to some of your like talks you've done at conventions and things and podcasts you've done. So like you mentioned a while back that you went on a sabbatical. Is that something you actually did? And
It didn't really happen. There was an intention for it to happen. And then projects and life and things kind of got in the way of that. But it's it's still an intention. It's still something I want to do at some point.
do you know what you want to accomplish with that?
With the sabbatical?
Yeah.
I think I felt like for a while that I've been I haven't really had a chance to like take a step back and like maybe spend more time just not working and reassess what I'm doing, and maybe I'll come out the other side like with with a new perspective or a better perspective about it. Because I feel like I don't know, there's only so much that I can do, like learn and grow with if I'm doing it always like on the job. If that makes sense.
And has it just been like a constant stream of work happening? That
Yeah,
you don't get that chance for like an extended time away from it to really recollect yourself?
Yeah, I haven't taken more than like a couple weeks off in like over a decade. So.
Oh wow.
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial.
I think you need to learn how to beef it. And we can help you with that.
When you said beat, I thought you were going to say the Beatles.
No, well,
Because they were together for 10 years and they just never took a break. And then
they didn't. Well,
then they just stopped.
There was a brief period in like '66 when they stopped touring.
Yeah.
I mean, they did their own little separate things and
Right.
they got back to
Then they just did studio
Yeah.
stuff for a couple of years. It might, a part of it might just be like something that I tell myself that helps me carry on in general, is that I like to have this kind of like goal ahead of me. And for me, a lot of times that goal is just sort of like freedom to make more decisions, make more choices. It's kind of like like looking out and there's like a pasture or something, like a certain amount of time out ahead of me. So, and I think part of that is just because I've been on this like, my career has kind of taken on this like, kind of like, it almost feels like being on a ride, because for me, I've been fortunate that, for a while I was just, trying to get by and working on whatever. And then I was fortunate enough to work on Fez, this game Fez, and that did really well. And then as soon as that came out, I mean, I didn't have to look for work anymore after that. And so I got this entirely new set of problems that I had to wrestle with that were good problems to have, but it became much more about like, you know, like retaking control of my life and my choices, and, you know, picking the things that I wanted to do and picking the kind of stuff that I wanted to work on. And so it's been like an ongoing thing to get better at, like, you know, making those kind of choices. And
Is it more because you are in demand or because the competition is so tight?
I think it's probably more the former, although I tend to perpetuate it because I think I feel a certain level of like wanting to stay current and just working and doing stuff, because I guess there's a small fear there that, like, you know, if I just because, like, you know, things are going well for me, like if I rest on my laurels, you know, maybe there's like a slight fear that I would suddenly, you know, wake up one day and be
that's
like,
a real fear with like anybody in like any sort of entertainment industry. Like any sort of break is the chance to miss out on keeping your career moving forward, you know? So it's like, I totally get that fear. I hear it from a lot of different people, stuff like that, where like they need to stay relevant, you know, and to them that means being constantly working just all the time, 24/7, you know?
Yeah,
like really
I wonder
stressing myself out for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wonder how much, if some of that is just is kind of a fallacy.
It is a little bit.
It's not something that would just happen overnight, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's like if you make something that gets out there and people see it, like people are going to be engaged with it for probably at least a couple of years. So it's not like one day you just wake up and suddenly everyone's forgotten who you are.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of like the thing where like I read about how some European country, or maybe it was even like Netflix or something, was doing like 1 year paternal and maternal leave, but like something about that like extended vacation time freaks people out, because the idea of taking like a year's worth of time off might make them look like slackers and stuff like that. Like that idea of like this amount of freedom that you can have might actually end up hurting you is like a really weird phenomenon.
There's a level of job security involved with some of those people that give out those leaves of absences.
I do think too there's some sort of relationship there where the more successful that you are, the longer you can probably disappear for, and it won't really matter. And at some point you probably just cross some kind of threshold where you can pretty much disappear for as long as you want in your lifetime and it'll be okay. You know, like if Radiohead decided to like disappear for like 20 years or something, and then they made an album, like
that'd be the biggest album of that
people
year.
would be talking
absolutely.
about. Like it's not like who's that?
Yeah, don't call it a comeback.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
what they did with Creep. So
That's true. They stopped playing it, right?
yeah.
It was only until like,
After they started playing it after a long time.
They
not
stopped playing it
it
after 2009. They brought it back last year.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
But they may have stopped again.
no,
'cause
they're
they
having
could
they're
do
having a
that.
laugh.
You think people at this day and age are still like, oh, Radiohead, I know them from that wonderful song Creep.
Yeah, you think like OK Computer did a good enough job to like subdue that whole one-hit wonder vibe.
Yeah. If that does happen to them, I feel like I empathize with that, and I would feel bad. Like, oh, that's so annoying.
Yeah.
You wrote that song so many years ago, and you've done so much stuff since then, and people are still gonna.
What I always get a kick is the people who like still cover the song. Like I'll see like a postmodern jukebox or somebody playing a different version of Creep, and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna play Radiohead. I'm like, okay, what are you playing? Oh, we're playing Creep. I'm like, of course you are.
That's like some
Yeah,
other
that
band.
totally original cover of Creep by Radiohead.
How bad do you want to see a band like a bar band just being like, hey, there's a Radiohead cover, and you're like, okay, here comes Creep, and they're like, it's called Tree Fingers.
We're gonna play the entire national anthem by Radiohead. Holy shit, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, that would be
The
great.
horn section comes out of like the friggin' side stage.
Barry sax solo included.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be great. This actually leads really well into my next question. With Fez arguably having been your breakout project, do you feel like you've ever been pigeonholed because of it? Because you mentioned in past interviews, like you've been asked, like at Follows, you've been asked to write Fez-like music and stuff. And what I wanted to know, like where it's going, is how do you manage to avoid having your current work compared to your past work and maintain the ability to experiment? Like, stay away from cherry pie guy syndrome.
What's cherry pie guy syndrome?
You ever see the documentary Cherry Pie Guy?
No.
You know the guy from Warrant who wrote "She's My Cherry Pie"?
No.
He like went it's I wish it was fun. It's not funny. It's just like this guy like went into serious depression over like that song because he like hated it, and he worked like put his heart and soul into the rest of that
Cherry
album.
Pie guy now.
And he became known as Cherry Pie Guy, and they made a whole documentary. And he actually ended up. It's probably not going to get this extreme for you, but he took his own life actually. Like
that's terrible.
Because
did he really?
Yeah, he had ongoing mental. He had.
That's not funny, Steven. This is a serious issue.
No, Steve aside saying, "I don't think this will happen to you."
But he had a lot of other stuff going on. Like it was more than that. But like
how did he do it? Cherry stems.
Oh my God! He probably the pits.
A lot of Manhattans.
No, he. God damn! Laying into the cherry pie guy. This is why he killed himself. Everyone. This is why he did it. How'd he kill himself?
I couldn't resist piling on after that oddly placed laugh.
No, I don't know how he did it, but yeah, basically, how do you like? Because you've mentioned like on It Follows and stuff, where it's kind of like how do you avoid that and like say, yo, like
you can't avoid it. I mean, it's just a fact of life. Like people love to categorize and label things, and that's just the way it is. But I mean, for me, like I just try to control what I can, which is often, the things that I work on and the work that I create, and so. I try to be very intentional about those kind of things. And I also try to confront it too a little bit. Like, there have been projects where I have been asked to generally speaking, if someone's like, oh, we want you to do what you did for this other thing, like do It Follows for this horror movie or something. I'd be like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to do that. I'd rather spend my time like, jumping into some kind of new territory. But there have been projects where, for instance, It Follows was a film where part of the temp score for the film was temped with music from Fez. And, normally that would be something that I'd probably be a little like hesitant about, but I really wanted to work on a feature and doing a genre film, doing a horror film. These are all like new things for me. So, I kind of just rolled with it, and just by like confronting it and having to try to create new music that was referencing music that I wrote like years ago, it actually turned out to be a really kind of interesting, kind of almost like existential kind of weird process. And I think it actually helped me a little bit to kind of detach from it and not like personalize the music that I write so much. You know what I mean? Like try to distance myself from it more. Like it's just like a thing that I mean, I made it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like I need to have all these like
the work for hire mentality kind of thing.
I mean, I don't know if I would use that term specifically because I do try to like keep rights and stuff in certain ways.
That's awesome.
Which leads into another question of mine.
But
but go ahead.
But I in general, I just think for my own sanity, it helps me to like detach from what I do a little bit.
Okay.
And kind of accept the fact that once you create something and you put it out into the ether, it doesn't really belong to you anymore. It belongs to anybody who wants to engage with it. So, and that's been, it's been a constant thing for me with like, I've turned down some pretty high profile projects. I've, and then people will like think that I worked on it or like, because they're like, maybe referencing my stuff or.
So I'm doesn't one of them rhyme with manger stings?
Yeah. There's another one too that rhymes with
I turned that one down too. It's okay.
Meth franding. What?
Meth. Oh. Ooh. Wait. What?
Hello.
wait. What?
And also.
What the
and
fuck?
Also.
Really?
Gotta make a good pun.
Meth branding and.
Host and Zabel.
I don't know that one.
Holy shit! You were gonna do Psychonauts 2?
I could never take Peter McConnell's job. I could never do that.
No, but
I turned down watching Stranger Things. If that makes you feel any better,
that must have been
puts us in a similar.
Must have been
a real hardship on you. That was a terrible. At least
everybody's
like 3
been telling me
minutes.
to watch it. I'm like, I'll watch it later. I don't really watch.
Yeah. I think I'll watch it eventually, but I'm not ready to watch it yet. I don't think.
Well, I thought it was fantastic, so I would
liked
recommend it.
I'm sure.
I liked the original 80s
I'm sure I'll like
movies
it.
that they were taking part of, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll like it.
Don't
But
say
it
the
matches
Goonies.
it to
It's just
its
the Goonies
teeth,
is not aged
Steven.
well.
It's just weird for me.
Having a
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's kind of that's the novelty. I still like watching Cyndi Lauper sing good enough, you know?
Yeah. But actually, no, that actually interests me because some of those things, like, man, I see, like, you go on, like, game dev classifieds on Reddit, or you go on anywhere anybody's posting, I'm working on a game. You just see, like, composers, like, I don't do this because I got dignity along the line, but I just see composers, like, throwing themselves at projects. So, like, please let me do music for your game. Like, I will do it. I'll do it for free. And they're, like, kind of, like, devaluing themselves in that way. And you're just like, no, I don't want to do that thing that, like, somebody would totally kill for. Like, what really, like, influences your decisions there? Like, not necessarily. It doesn't. You can get specific if you want.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. I think it's a wild thing because there's so much competition and there's so many people trying to do music for games. I think for me, it's important to me that I really enjoy what I'm doing, because if I don't enjoy writing music, I'd rather do some kind of menial job than do that, because to me, like, doing something creative that's not fulfilling is like soul sucking. It's like the worst thing. So I think that's part of why I've kind of pushed myself in that direction. I mean, obviously I have a lot, like, I'm really fortunate to be in the position that I am where I can turn down work.
I can't, so just shoot those my way. Like, you have my email. You have my email address.
Pass things off. Here's some recommendations. Here's my card.
I'm kidding.
I'll add you to the list of
His
people that
secret
have
motive
said
is
I was gonna
that
say
to me.
you probably get like emails all the time. No, but yeah. But have they made you? Food?
But no, I do try to pass on work to people. Like, I try to be thoughtful about it, though. I'm not just like, oh, some guy just asked me and I'm just gonna give him a thing. I try to be like, oh, I think this person. Try to be a little bit of a matchmaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard though. Like, I have some people that I've been trying to push for stuff like for years, and for whatever reason it just never works out. So I don't know what that's about. Sometimes what happens, I think, is people, they want a specific thing, and then you try to give them something else, and they're like, oh, they're good, but it's not. I ordered the peanut butter and you gave me the tuna salad or whatever. I've kind of been in that position too before, where I've like,
Have you ever tried to suggest tuna salad as a replacement for the peanut butter?
like assert like, no, you want this thing.
No, that's what I mean. Unless
okay.
you mean like literally tuna salad. No, but I mean, I mean, like, yes, like,
I know this great composer.
'cause
It's tuna salad.
There have been these situations where like I've either acted as a liaison to get someone else a job, or who originally wanted me, or maybe I brought in someone to collaborate with me and then I kind of let them take over.
When
And
you
then that caused problems.
Okay, when are you starting your Hans Zimmer like academy for like writers?
When are you going on master class?
No. If there was video, you could see me. I was just shaking my head. No, no, it's not for me.
I turned down a Hans Zimmer gig. I took on a Disney gig instead of being a stagehand for Hans Zimmer.
Golf clap for Steve.
We're all
Irwin?
making
I think
sacrifices.
that's a good
here,
choice.
You know,
I like that choice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Although I've known many people who worked for Hans Zimmer, and he seems like a really nice guy.
I met a couple people, and they're actually they think they never said he wasn't a nice guy, but they work there right.
They work to the bone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
for
weren't
sure.
too happy about that part.
Well, I think that whole organization is built up as an answer to kind of the film industry and how the film industry works.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a steaming pile of garbage that I don't really want to be involved in. If I can, like what?
I said agreed.
Yeah. Like I like film, and I like writing music for a film. I like it, but there's so much other stuff around it that
Yeah, like
makes
politics involved. And
yeah,
stuff like
it makes
that.
it really difficult to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of soul sucking in a certain way.
Yeah, that makes me curious about kind of. I mean, has anyone ever asked you about the differences of like working on a game versus working to SMPTE and like dealing with like film, like actual?
Yeah, for sure.
You've kind of like talked about that in the past, or have you?
Yeah.
Okay, then never mind.
Go
Go look that up.
I mean, if you're interested, I can talk a little bit about it.
No, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, I mean, film is. It's you know more about what you're getting into early on. I think you figure out the sound, and then you kind of know all the like you generally decide. If you're lucky and you're working with someone who you trust, you decide early on that this is the music that we need to write. Here are all the scenes, here are all the beats, blah, blah, blah. And then you do it. And, I mean, there are more steps. there, especially if you're doing like orchestra and stuff, it can get pretty like complicated in that way. But the actual like intellectual challenges are maybe not as severe. In games, it's kind of like it's the possibility space is so enormous that it can really it can be pretty challenging at times, trying to like wrap your head around, you know, when is the music, what is the music gonna do, and how much do you want the music to accomplish in this game? You know, you're just gonna do like simple stuff, like, you know, you go to this place and it plays music, or do you want to like go way into the weeds and have the music like constantly reacting and changing and interacting, and, you know, just create this crazy like dynamic, you know, algorithmic.
Yeah, the
score.
way people want certain
do
things
all-
like implemented can like completely drastically change the
do
way
all
like the
kinds of
music is
crazy
totally
stuff.
developed. Yeah.
I was posting this thing on Twitter, maybe like last week. This game, I don't know how to pronounce it. Near Automata.
Nier Automata? Yeah.
There's this technique that they created for that game. Basically, there's like the regular high fidelity soundtrack.
Oh,
that's
is this
playing.
the blog that the audio director
Yeah,
wrote
yeah,
about
yeah.
the when it goes 8-bit when you start doing the hacking sequences? I read that. Yeah, that was a really cool
It's
read.
so crazy. So basically, like there's like regular high fidelity underscore, and then there's this like hacking mini game or something, and when you go into that, it kind of like gradually shifts into this 8-bit mode, but none of that music, or maybe some of it, but they created this whole like algorithm that basically analyzes the high fidelity music and extracts all like the notes from the music. And
Yeah,
then-
it was like
man.
around like 60 to 70% of like the actual music got like an 8-bit version, but the other stuff that didn't, they had to create some sort of weird algorithm where like they bit crushed it. They did like a bunch
Yeah.
of like DSP like filter passing.
that's
through
what's
it.
especially weird about it, is that they took the time to do 70% of it
Yeah, yeah.
like freehand. And then they was like, well, we should create this really sophisticated, insane algorithm for the final 30%. Like, who does that?
Yeah, there was probably
developers
a,
of Nier
a time
Automata.
constraint. It was probably a time constraint thing, maybe. Or,
Yeah, I guess they must just be so like, they must be quick and really brilliant. And like, oh wait, yeah, I could just, you know, let's just sketch this up. No
it's-
problem.
Yeah, it's a
It'll
really,
take me like a weekend.
Yeah, it was a really cool read though. And like he goes through
Fascinating.
like each thing. He shows different demos of like each like iteration of the process. You know, where it's like, oh, that works, but we can do better. So we added this, but we can do better, and we added this, and it turned out really fucking cool.
a
And it was
great
like almost
attitude.
seamless.
Yeah, you can't even really tell that it's not just like bespoke
Yeah,
Yeah.
8-bit music.
Yeah.
that somebody wrote.
That's
was really
pretty sick.
cool.
I gotta check that out. That's
yeah.
awesome.
It's really interesting.
How long are queues in video game?
Sometimes cues don't even adhere to the dimension that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
That's what
makes it confusing.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yep.
Because
Yep.
it's like, would it be like a certain loop that plays?
Rich Vreeland masterclass.
Like say
That's the
like
traditional implementation of music in games is
Right.
a loop.
okay.
That's a lot of games still employ that, but
Yeah, but a lot
a lot
of
of
it,
games don't.
yeah, a lot of the new thing that's come around. I mean, it's been happening for kind of a while. Is like the term that is usually like vertical or adaptive layering, where it's very stem based.
Yeah, that's very common in like AAA games.
Yeah,
It's usually some combination of vertical, which is like layering,
Mm-hmm.
and horizontal, which is like modules, like sections of music
Mm-hmm.
that can branch out on downbeats. Like, so there's like a clock that's listening, and then it will like adjust in
it's-
real time.
yeah. Sometimes like an on beat transition.
Yeah, those two are like kind of those are like the main techniques that are really commonly used
Mm-hmm.
in games.
Because if every time a character walks into a new town, the score changes. And I'm always trying to like, oh, how do they do that? To like walk in, walk out, like there's a trigger or something.
But it feels seamless. You're saying,
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You should definitely. You don't have to play it, but you should definitely check out like the audio for Doom, the new game that came out, the new
Okay.
Doom that came out in 2016. The implementation and the music for that stuff is pretty freaking awesome. Like it's dependent on like the intensity of combat. It's like the more you do like these glory kills of like these super visceral like melee attacks into them, like the score builds up more and more, and it adds more layers of the actual song into there. And then when you do those glory kills, it does like a music stinger in it.
Okay.
And I think even that is sort of conditioned for like how intense the combat is. Like it could be a bigger stinger depending on how intense the combat's going, but like it just builds up more and more. And I don't know, I feel like that game's gotten so many like accolades for its audio and for good reason. So I would say like if you want a really good example of like all the different kinds of like techniques and like layering methods that they use, like Doom is a really good example for that.
Okay.
Yeah, you were showing me that before. That was really cool.
The amount of work they put in for the intro level where they try to time the shotgun to the Doom music was that was intense, man. But it turned out pristine, pitch perfect. It was so cool.
Bobby made the little Italian chef for your podcast, man. He made the little Italian chef kiss in the hand motion.
It's like a big wild sandbox. And
Yeah.
people are experimenting and doing all kinds of different interesting things with audio and games.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Something that's kind of like something you did that was kind of it's not the same, but similar with like layering of multiple kind of from multiple parts of the game was like the glitch level kind of score. Like, did you plan that they're all going to fit together, or did you just kind of like these all kind of work?
They had a room in the game, a secret room that had all the tiles from all the different levels in the game, all the different tile sets, and they're all kind of like flickering and revolving around you. And I just wanted to create a piece of music that kind of captured that vibe. So I knew it had to be glitchy, and then I also wanted it to be self-referential. So I kind of went through the other tracks that I'd written and figured out like how to, create like a patchwork track that was those two ideas. So basically Glitch is like, it's based on this other track Sync. Yeah. It's kind of like the base, the framework for it. And then I'm just like throwing stems basically from like 6 or 7 or 8 other tracks and like figuring out ways to like make them all work harmonically and stuff.
Nice.
And then glitching the crap out of it.
Yeah. It turned out fucking awesome. That's like Sync and Glitch are like my favorite songs from that game. So yeah, nice. It turned out really well.
Yeah. We'll have fanboy minute a little bit later. But we'll get into that where we gush for like 60 seconds. Go, just gush, go, guys. Yeah, that's. I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry. Yeah, no, you kind of do that in Mini Metro as well. Like everything has its own. Well, not the glitch thing. The thing we were talking about before with the kind of like procedurally generated, almost not procedurally generated, like like according to what's going on in the action of the game. It's kind of just like everything has its own unique.
I guess it's a kind of procedural generation. It's the music in Mini Metro is all. There are no pre-recorded tracks or anything like that. It's all just based off of instruments that I built, usually sample by sample. And so those instruments are triggered based frequently on game data or like predetermined sets of like rhythms or pitches, harmonies, and stuff like that. So basically the system is like listening to the game and gathering information about, how many lines you have, what kind of stations are on each line, how many passengers are on each or at each station, what kind of trains there are, how many passengers are in each train. Basically, like taking in all the game data, all the information that the game is spewing out, and like using it to try to create a musical soundscape that kind of does double duty. It's giving you important information, important sonic feedback about what's important for the player to be paying attention to. And then it's also giving you some of like the atmosphere and kind of the emotional undertext. Try to make the game a little bit less stressful, make it more meditative. That's kind of.
Yeah, I should just like start a Mini Metro game and have it playing in the microphone the whole time so people can kind of hear it happening over. Yeah.
It was kind of like, for me, that game was kind of like, it was an excuse to like just program everything and to just take this concept, which is in game development called feature creep, which is just like you're trying to like finish something on time, but you keep having new ideas, and we have to stop coming up with new ideas and just focus. But I was using feature creep as like my creative process. It's like, oh, what if you did that? What if you did that? And I just program stuff and keep trying stuff because it was such a complex system, and I was trying to figure out like the most effective. Like I really wanted it to be utilitarian, but also enjoyable. And so like trying to figure out how to accomplish both of those things, it was like a lot of heavy thinking, a lot of late night note taking and shit like that.
Yeah. So big tip to aspiring composers and sound designers: take notes unrelentingly.
Yes, thumbs up to notes. 2 stars. Would note. Yeah, would note again.
while we're on the topic of getting different sounds and music and things to work together, I mean, you do not only composition work, you do sound design work as well. Have you done sound design for games that you've also composed for?
I have, yeah, a couple times.
All right, because I was kind of going with that is, as a composer and sound designer, there's often a challenge in audio professions that you have to kind of keep the frequencies from fighting each other and covering each other up. So I mean, it's hard enough to do in an individual field, like just for music or just for sound design. Like, what are some of the things you try to do to kind of keep the music from fighting with the sound effects? Like, does the hierarchy of sound kind of play into video games as well? And
for sure, I find it's easier to manage that when you do everything yourself.
Yeah,
because you can make decisions unilaterally pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, I think I've generally. It's interesting. I don't know. Different games. There have been different solutions to that. There have been games where I've done like music and ambience, and not sound effects. Mm-hmm. And the sound designer has chosen to do a very specific aesthetic thing, and I will choose to do something different, and we'll basically explore different territory, so that the sound effects and the music are just distinct from each other. I mean, and sometimes that's something that you want. You want those things to be kind of separated. But then there are other times where you want everything to kind of feel like it's undistinguishable, like the sound effects, the music, like everything is kind of like operating together. And that was kind of what Mini Metro was about, for sure. So then it really becomes about thinking about hierarchy and like, looking at from a macro scale and prioritizing everything. Like what's the most important information in any moment? Like what does the player need to know? What does the player not need to know? A listener can only really focus on a couple of things at a time.
Right.
There's like a great philosophy. I think it's Walter Murch's philosophy, the sound designer who did a bunch of Lucas stuff. And it's basically, he talks about how we can only really perceive like 2.5 things at once, like clearly. And so like he uses this law like when he mixes films and stuff.
Who's the Apocalypse Now guy, right?
Yeah, Apocalypse Now. Yeah. So that he shows and in explaining that, he shows this like sequence from Apocalypse Now where there's like a bunch of stuff going on. There's like, fighting, there's like helicopters and stuff. And he drops, like, first he shows you like with all the sounds that you would expect, like all the sounds that are actually have, like counterparts on the screen. He shows you with all of those sounds, and it's just kind of cacophonous and crazy. And then he kind of goes in and he emphasizes the things that he thinks are important in every scene, and he kind of takes out everything that's not important. And it suddenly feels more like much more focused and like easy to follow. And you don't even really like what's fascinating about it is you don't even really miss like the ambient like chatter or certain gunfire or whatever. Wow. Because there's something so impactful happening that you don't even notice the other stuff. And like there's only so much like space that you have to convey information. You can't always just like pile on more and more and expect it to work.
Yeah. I mean, wow, I gotta check that out. Is that like something we can just like link to or something, or like?
Yeah, you should be able to find it. I can try to find it. It's
yeah. That guy was crazy good.
Very
crazy
talented.
Good.
Very thoughtful.
Not a bad man. He's okay in my book.
He's a very thoughtful sound designer.
Yeah, you mentioned like kind of bringing like the ambient, the ambient into your, is kind of that. Ambiance is kind of in your wheelhouse, and that's something you employ a lot. We've seen that in some of your games that you've worked on. I'm personally, when it comes to composition and stuff, I'm super ADD, and I'm like, man, this shit is getting boring fast. Like, how do you keep how do you make the ambient engaging?
Are you talking about ambient music or ambient
music?
Ambient music. I think I have a similar problem, actually. I think I have a little bit of musical ADD because, there are a lot of times I'll hear a track or someone's music, and it's extremely repetitive, but in a way that I find like really satisfying. And I'm like, I wish I just had more discipline. Like I was just more willing to just make something that was like long and repetitive and wasn't always changing. I had to change all the time. I think it was just my own like maybe insecurity or something. But for me, I think with ambient stuff, it's like it's simple music stuff, I guess, like introducing new elements or like new chords or creating variations. I guess it's variation. I don't know if there's more. I don't know if there's something more specific than that. But
no, I wasn't looking for like a specific answer. It's just like they'll be like, write some ambient, and I'll just like see this like grid staring at me. I'm just like, God, this looks so symmetrical. I hate it.
Well, sometimes I don't even use the grid when I do ambient music. I just do everything rubato.
Oh yeah.
It's like more like painting that way. You just kind of, you dial in a bunch of sounds that are like maybe have really slow attacks or whatever, and you just don't even really think about tempo. You just kind of feel it out, and then you kind of get this like chronological painting almost.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
really cool.
I think that's like that's like one way that you can kind of think about ambient that's not so rigid.
Yeah, it sounds like when you're looking at that grid and stuff, you start to see the system of it in the music. So like getting out of that, like even just like closing your eyes.
Yeah.
And just like,
I mean, like, cause if you just play like 4 bars of this chord, 4 bars of this chord, you're going to have some very like kind of, it's not going to be the best ambient music. It's going to be kind of predictable and
right.
Yeah.
Because the challenge lies, it's like, okay, I want it to be ambient and like definitely taking a back seat to the action, but also, if it gets too interesting, I don't want it to overshadow the dialogue or what's going on in the in the media. So
yeah, well, it depends on the media too. I mean, because in certain media, because it's tied so closely sync wise, you just have to get out of the way. With like a film or a cartoon or something, there are just moments where it's like, oh, they're talking. I need to.
Yeah, can't do anything here.
I can't do anything in this frequency range, really. Yeah. And if I do something else there in a different frequency range, I have to really like pay attention and be like, is this getting in the way or not? You have to make like a judgment call.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, it was funny. The last thing I worked on was like a little short, and I had to write an ambient like. Not like it was really short, like a little 30-second cue for like a little discussion this guy was having, and it was like on a real time crunch. And I was looking at it, I was getting that like self awareness. And I was like, fuck it. And I had the patch was on like a little like piano string swipes. So it was like all these kind of tone things, and I just went Logic, select all notes, randomize pitch, print it, and I was just like, there you go, dog. It's ambient now. One of my prouder moments.
Did it just come out as noise?
No, actually, no. It came out okay. It sounded like a neat little like kind of piano like ambient thing, and it worked. And there was like some shitty sounding parts at the end, so I kind of fixed them myself. But
okay,
like, all right.
Sounds like you really lucked out there.
Yeah, that's pretty lucky.
I was like neat. But yeah, that was a little fun story related to that. But
atonal ambient.
I'm sorry. You mentioned your like kind of just aside earlier how you try to manage your rights and your administration of your music.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious because I can go to disaster.pizza and I can get all your music basically. Like it's all there. Almost all of it is there. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of, just for people out there who are listening and trying to figure out how to structure their deals with game developers or director or producers or whatever, whoever they might be working with, like how do you typically try to go and structure a deal where you can kind of maintain your music and your ownership and sell it, and like do you license or like how does that work? If you don't mind talking.
Yeah, no. I like talking about it. It kind of depends really. The larger your client is, like the bigger of a corporation you're dealing with, the less likely it is that you'll get what you want because they just have boilerplate agreements and they don't really make exceptions. So, if you're doing work in TV, for instance, it's pretty much going to be a work for hire in my experience. I mean, in those cases, and ultimately, I don't really care so much about owning the music. It's more just that I want to be, I want to be participating in the future of the music. Like if the music is going to be generating some kind of income or something, whether it's soundtracks or, royalties from, streaming or performances or, even sync licenses, which really depends on what the project is and stuff. So, I mean, in those situations, it's kind of tough. You just try to get what you can. But, when you're dealing with smaller companies or individuals, you can pretty much ask for whatever you want. I try to, I like to do revenue share with games, especially because I feel like it's like you're directly invested in the project, which is kind of cool. And so if the project does really well naturally, if you did the music or whatever, you contributed to the success of the project. And I feel like it's not like film where someone's coming in and generally and putting in like, $20 million or something.
Right.
So, it's nice to participate in those sorts of things. And it can be, if you work on a successful game, it can be really, really nice. But if it's not successful, then, you may not see anything. But so what I do with that is like I usually would do like some kind of hybrid kind of thing where like I would ask for something up front and then like use that as like an advance against a revenue share so that no matter what, you get something.
Sure.
That's generally what I try to do, and try to keep soundtrack rights if I can.
Right.
Do you work that in a way just in case you think the game is not very good?
I don't work on games that I don't work on games that
I know, but if I came in, if I just heard that and I'm a game developer and I come up and you ask for an advance, it's I would assume that you don't think the game would sell very much. I'm playing devil's advocate right here.
That may be, but I don't really care that much.
Okay, that's the spirit.
I mean that would be someone's personal,
right
thing, insecurity or whatever, but that hasn't really happened to me. I guess it's maybe they don't always understand that that's what it is. It's just kind of like,
no, it's a security blanket.
It's like we'll do a flat rate basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think to most people it's like it's a flat rate basically.
Okay,
but then the flat rate is counted against a revenue share. So
right. Once that's taken care of.
Right, exactly.
I just had to think about that for a minute. Like, hey man, you're only asking for so much. Like, you want money up now? It's like, you must think it's not very good. Or
well, sometimes like, I mean, I like to think that I'm at the point now where I can just like work on stuff that I think is cool.
Right.
So it's very rare that I'm on something and I'm like, man, this is not very good. I don't really like this.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it may not be, it doesn't mean that it could be unsuccessful. Sometimes there are really great games that don't do very well financially. So
right.
Yeah.
It's always a possibility. I mean, I did a game called The Floor is Jelly that I really, really liked.
Yeah, that was rad.
And I think it only sold like 4,000 copies or something.
Really?
So
that Floor's Jelly, go buy it. Go buy
now.
it. Go buy it now.
Redeem it.
Give Rich that jelly money.
Sweet jelly money.
Give him that sweet Floor's Jelly money. No, I'm surprised. That was a cool like mechanic where you like rotate the level and stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's a nice little game.
Around. It's like
yeah. It kind of just we didn't do a lot of marketing for it, and it kind of just it never got ported to anything, so I just kind of
man. All right, well, I mean that's the thing is it's part of the experience. It's you work on like crazy huge stuff, you work on some smaller stuff. It's just not everything's gonna be like a freaking home run, and I think that's what people need to realize is like, it's about base hits, to use baseball terminology.
I mean, for me, it's just like work on what you're interested in, and hopefully it'll.
Yeah.
How close is the community that you're engaged in, like working wise, like between developers and other composers or other animators and designers?
Yeah.
And developers, is it pretty close in? I know when it gets to AAA level, it's a little like businessy, but is it pretty low key?
Yeah, the independent game community is pretty low key. It's getting pretty big now. I've kind of stepped out of that a little bit. Like I've kind of focused more on my personal life the last like maybe year or two. But I still see a lot of the people that I've met in independent game space at conferences and stuff, and it's a pretty tight-knit community. And it's multidisciplinary, which is really cool because a lot of the people in independent games are multidisciplinarians. They do lots of different things. There's someone like Derek Yu who made Spelunky, who did all the artwork and the game design, and he did some of the programming. Or like Alec Kaloka who does music and programming and game design. Yeah, he did Aquaria and he worked on Night in the Woods and he's done a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot of really talented people in independent games who are just kind of doing different stuff.
Wait, I got one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Esports, is that a real sport?
Fuck's sake.
Oh yeah, Steve.
I can't. They're owned by the Patriots and the Mets, dude. They're Overwatch teams owned by fucking Bob Kraft and
doesn't Shaq own a team?
Rick Fox does.
And Cuban's into it, I think.
Cuban is into it.
Yeah, it's a sport.
Is it really a sport? I mean, like people sit in
physical and mental preparation.
There are talks about it being a
teamwork,
but isn't
being
like
an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I heard about that one
24.
too. The idea of having like teams sponsored, that sort of stuff, I get it. But like, I tried watching a highlight or a commentary or a snippet of a game commenting. It was like the worst Let's Play ever.
What are you watching? Like
like an ESPN thing covering Let's Play
Oh,
games.
we're watching ESPN. That's why.
They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
What? Did you see Evo this year?
No.
That shit was awesome. go watch Evo Street Fighter 4 or 5 tournament. Yeah, those are great.
It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like how hot dog eating is a sport.
Matt Stoney. Shout out to Matt Stoney, my favorite hot dog eater. Yeah. He didn't do well this year, but I still love him.
Yeah,
hot dog eating is an esport too. Well, it's not. It's less athletic, but it's in a certain respect.
Right.
But it's still a sport. I mean, I guess
strategy,
it comes down
there's
to
They
teamwork.
have Under
There's
Armour
everything,
companies
yeah.
like sponsoring the work, the gear wear and stuff. I'm fleshing this out basically.
Yeah, but I think the analogy that I was making to the hot dog eating is that they have a very like regimented physical preparation, like workout.
Right.
And esports people are the same way.
But is it all focused on the wrist?
No. That's
You fucking come on, dude. Steve,
no, they have to be like
you're trolling, dude. You're just
there's entire
trolling.
strategies. There's communication. There's teamwork. There's that
they have to be
regimen.
prepared. They have to be like physically and mentally prepared and like
Basketball
alert.
players don't throw a ball around willy nilly. They have like
set
set
picks.
moves and stuff. There's coordination there.
Do they-
That you gotta practice like full time.
Yeah, but it requires your entire body.
Well, let me ask you
It
this:
says video element.
What about podcasting? You think podcasting can be a sport?
No.
I think it can be a sport.
Competitive podcasting.
Competitive. Well, yeah, that's a really good point because isn't like there's a certain aspect where like there's a subjective concept to it. Because sports as it is, or as most mainstream sports, it's cut dry objectives, right? With video games, there's certain ones that can be on the competitive level, but they're not also. There's another like completely subjective side to it. There's storytelling. There's
but
art
a lot
design.
of the esports
But most of the games that
laid
they-
out like sports,
Yeah,
with hard, clear-cut objectives.
Yeah, and even if like
Most kills,
a game
most
does
goals.
have even if a game does have like a narrative element to it, when it comes to the esports sides, they cut to the thing that really where that side of it doesn't really matter.
You have a game like Rocket League, which is basically soccer, it's like
Right.
virtual soccer with cars.
Okay.
I mean,
Shit, there are even freaking leagues that EA does for their Madden NFL games or their NBA Live games or whatever it is. Like there's competitions
FIFA's
on
probably-
virtual actual sports.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is there's a stigma about esports because you're not not
physical.
actively using your limbs. You're not flailing your body around while you're doing it.
Here's what we're gonna do. It's Bobby, pull up the Daigo Perry.
Yeah, pull up the beast.
Pull up the Daigo
my
Perry.
phone's off.
And I understand there's a giant screen that everybody would watch.
Well, it's
that's
not
for
for you.
spectators.
But dude,
That's
we've been
not-
over this a million times. You're not. If it's
We
not
haven't
for,
been over
you don't
this
have-
at all.
you don't have-
We never
no,
talked
we did.
about
We said
this.
if you don't like it, you don't have to like it. It's just like it's about like if you don't. But that doesn't mean you have to question the legitimacy of it.
Well, maybe we should talk about what constitutes a sport because there is no. I don't think there's any objective classification of what a sport is or is not. It's totally subjective.
As Mark M
mean,
says,
Wikipedia's not
as
gonna-
Mark M says, golf is not a fucking sport.
You can say whatever. I mean, you can say whatever you want.
Steve is
Someone
just
will agree
real
with you
life
somewhere.
Shout out to
Damn.
Mark M. Get on the show.
That's what this all amounted to. You just wanted a shout out.
That's my elaborate.
I want to. No, I want to get this thing back on track. If that's okay with everybody else, or do you want to go more into sports? I don't know.
Depends.
I don't care really.
I just wanted to. I did want to ask you about like a little bit about just like an aesthetic thing about your style and everything.
Sure.
Is about how a lot of your games have been not all of them obviously, but a lot of the music you've done has been electronic and electronic based or like hybrid electronic acoustic kind of stuff. Like, could you see yourself if let's say like the circumstances were right, budget or creative license they gave you or whatever, to do something more acoustic, more maybe even orchestral or something in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that I've done a lot of electronic stuff, but personally, I don't think of myself primarily as one thing or another, and I've done acoustic stuff before. One of my first game soundtracks, Shoot Many Robots, was like a southern rock kind of soundtrack. And I'm actually doing an orchestral score right now.
Ooh.
I actually did an orchestral score a couple years ago using all samples for a game called Cannon Brawl. And
sure.
it's like orchestral marches, which is kind of a weird. It was a very weird thing for me to try, and I didn't entirely like using samples to do something that generally, I think it's hard to get away with that. Like, I just really wanted it to be real orchestra.
So you've got some like real orchestral stuff coming up, or?
Yeah, I'm working on a film right now with the director of It Follows.
Oh, right.
We're working
nice.
on a film noir, and it has an 80-minute orchestral score.
Very nice.
Wow.
That's actually what I've been. It's actually the reason that I haven't made it out here till now,
You mentioned
because
that.
I've been working on it for about a year. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I can't wait to hear that. That'll be pretty cool.
Goes to
All
line.
right, I have a question for the two sound designers in the room,
What's up?
Yo.
or possibly, I guess, composer question. It's more of a composer question. This is
Okay, then not what's up.
this is no, but Bobby can definitely pipe in. I would love to hear it because I texted Bobby this question a month ago and he didn't respond, and it made me very sad because Bobby doesn't respond to my text because I send him stupid shit. I said
I don't remember this at all.
I sent you a text. I was like, "Did you know that Earth, Wind, and Fire goes up by like 10 clicks by the end of the song?" And he just didn't say
I looked at that
anything.
and was like, yeah, okay, cool.
September like speeds up. He's like, "Okay, yeah, no, my question." All right.
He does that a lot. That one in particular, like he sent me that and was like,
I
why
shitpost
did you even
directly to
why did you
Bobby's
even
phone.
bother to notice that?
I shit post directly to Bobby's phone.
Did you ever hear the
Bypass
recording?
Reddit.
Did you ever hear the recording of it's the beginning of a Van Halen concert, and they start playing the backing track to Jump, and it's
Yes.
at a wrong sampling rate,
Yeah.
and then
I've
they
heard
just
that.
play through it, and even like he's I can't remember the guitar player's name, but he's like
Eddie Van Halen?
Eddie Van Halen, yeah. I don't like Van Halen. Anyway, he's like he even like
You and I are not
solos.
you're not so different. You and I.
But is Van Halen a
He
band?
Not really.
He like bends. He's like bending all of his notes up like an extra
Oh,
semitone or like
God.
quarter
wow.
tone to get into that like bad pitch.
That's rough. We'll link to that too.
Amazing.
Yeah, that'll be great.
The shitpost end.
Big question. Huge question. $1 million question.
Really?
Should in video games, should pause screens get their own unique music, or do you just low pass the music that's already playing in the game?
Oh, you. Why did you bring up that other one? You asked me that question. Why'd you not use that as example?
Could someone explain that question to me? The layman in the room.
So it's like it's become like a part of video game culture where you pause the game and then there's like new music, and then you unpause the game and the music changes.
Like on the pause screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it has a certain charm to it. I think it's I think it's a lot more prevalent in like Japanese games,
Okay.
especially older games. I remember there's this game that did this that drove me nuts, Okami,
Oh yeah.
which is a great game and has like nice music in it, but every time you like pause to use this like drawing thing, it like the music changes and it's just like the same song, and you're going into it like over and over and over and over again. So yeah, I guess it depends how often you're pausing.
Does it depend on the song, maybe?
And depends on the song.
Because if it's a good song, you want to keep pausing for it. Hey, what's the problem?
Well, that's weird though. This game is good, but
Oh,
the
look, I have to
pause
go-
music is even better than the game. So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, hey man, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You play it for a while, and you know.
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. I think you can ruin either of those.
It was kind of a goofy question. I was just like, what are your opinion on this weird semantic?
I think it's easier. It's probably easier to ruin it by changing the music in the pause. Maybe.
Bobby, hit me.
I think it really depends on like what the function of the pause button does. I mean, like there's some games where it just goes into just the word that says pause, which is kind of a classic way to do things. But I know The Witcher, their pause button actually just goes into your inventory, something like that. It's like it kind of depends on the function of what the pause menu is doing, you know? It's like if it's a really involved thing, maybe you want to just like keep the music going, something like that. If it's just a static image of like a word that says pause.
Our
you
pause
know?
button's really practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, could you just
Oh
not
my
have
god.
a thing come
Okay,
in?
anyway, moving on.
Sometimes. Sorry to not move on, but sometimes it's actually kind of annoying if you pause the game and the music is still blaring. Because sometimes
Yeah,
you want to
fair.
pause the game like you want to stop a movie to be like, "What was that? you want to talk to me, or you're
Right,
talking to
yeah.
somebody or whatever, and you pause it and it's like.
I want to put this like big obnoxious like thank you in like an argument like he agrees with me, thank you for agreeing with me.
Or like pause screen, unpause.
Bobby, make it happen. Make it happen.
I'm gonna do that Captain Dickhead voice.
Will from
pausing now.
Will from afar.
Unpausing.
Yeah,
There are games like that.
yeah. Get that Will from afar sample. And,
Yeah,
make
exactly.
that happen. But yeah, that's okay. So that's the question I had. That was kind of for goofs. Personally, kind of like it when you go.
Glad I drove all the way here to answer.
I feel like I nailed that question.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know what?
It's been haunting him for like at least 3.5 years now.
not years. It's like 3 months ago.
I know.
But yeah, you know what's great though is when people put their backs into like main menu music. Like, oh my god, that is, you don't even realize how much.
or credit music.
Or credit music. Yeah. Oh god.
I never do that.
You ever?
I'm like, I'm tired. I'm done with this game. I don't want to work on it anymore.
I didn't even pick up this game because it's a movie tie-in game. But you ever heard Jeremy Soul's main menu music for the Prisoner of Azkaban movie tie-in game? It is a fucking masterpiece.
No,
You
but
should listen to
I
it.
would listen to it. I like Jeremy Soule.
We're gonna link to that. Yeah,
He has a very singular style.
Write it down, Steven.
yeah. No, Jeremy Soul's I mean obviously he's very talented, but yeah,
You could
his
smell his music from a mile away.
oh yeah, yeah,
Very,
you can.
he has a very unique sound.
He does.
Oh,
he
that's
does.
a good question for movie tie-in music. I know.
Movie tie-in games.
Yeah, thank you. Are most composers for the video?
No.
They can't get the. Is it?
Nope.
They can't sync
No,
that.
that's
out.
why like there's like 8 different Star Wars video game composers.
And like 8 backup voice actors for
The
people
voice
that you
actor
can't
ones I
get.
can get. I
Yeah.
understand that, but I was thinking like the license, the sync license is way too expensive to.
Yeah, that's
feature.
Yeah, the licensing is probably the
That's
big thing
probably
about
the
that.
reason.
No.
Sometimes they get it. There are some Star Wars games that have John Williams stuff like spliced together.
The guy who did the music for Empire at War really nailed it for Star Wars, like feeling music.
Yeah.
Like I kind of wish they'd used him on the new movies. Whoever that guy was, he did a really good
I
job.
wonder who it was. I know some of the people who've done Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know the
game
music, but yeah, I don't know the music for that game. I know they got Tamara Morrison for Boba Fett.
Did you work on
they
it?
got him. That Steve Blum's in there too.
Steve Bloom, he's in everything,
He's
man.
in. I mean, he's I love
Steve
him.
Buscemi?
Steve Bloom.
Steve Bloom.
Yeah, Steve
That's his
Buscemi.
name. Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom.
Bloom.
You ever worked with him?
No,
I know that name. What has he done?
like everything.
Spike
he
Spiegel,
was.
Cowboy Bebop.
He was the main guy in Bulletstorm.
Oh, yes. Spike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He talks
he does
like
mostly
this.
background stuff, but like when you hear his voice, you know exactly
yeah.
what stuff he's been
I
in.
know a guy who sounds like that.
Yeah.
Steve, if you're listening to the podcast, come on, come on down.
He can't. He's still on strike.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, that's still going on.
Oh shit! Whoops.
is there a
Sorry,
union?
Steve. We're not making fun of you.
SAG-AFTRA is striking against like a lot of the major video game companies for better representation.
Oh, SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah, SAG-AFTRA for their voiceover stuff, trying to get essentially like royalties and stuff like on the back end because they don't do that right now.
Oh, really? They don't like do. Oh, okay. Like they don't do like what's it called? The word residuals for like
No,
voice
they don't do
actors?
residuals for games.
Oh,
No,
dude.
that's
what
like
they're-
the front. That's like the Wild West right now.
Yeah, that's
I
like
know for
that's like
games
the
they
main
don't- they
issue,
don't
and
do-
that's like the main reason why like the strike is still happening right now is like they're super adamant about some sort of residual or back end payment.
Okay.
Yeah,
for
I know.
video
They
game
don't
voice
do.
acting.
They don't do performance royalties for games yet, do they?
No,
No.
But they do mechanicals, right? You can, or do you have to negotiate?
No.
They don't. Holy shit, Congress!
No.
Write to your congressman.
I don't know, man.
Pass a
I
bill.
don't know. I don't know if royalties are the right way for that, but for music, I think revenue share, back end, I think makes
think
more
so?
sense. Well, economically, it makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
Because the game
It's how do you?
is going to make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
You contributed to the game, so therefore,
yeah.
have a percentage.
I remember their initial concept for it was like I don't remember the exact numbers, but a certain payment after a certain amount of copies are sold, up to like 8 million, I think.
Okay.
Something up there. Like there is a cap, but like certain blocks of copies sold calls for like a certain amount of.
I mean,
residual.
because if you do a buyout, I mean, it's you do something for a project or whatever, and you get paid like a flat rate. I mean, it's an opportunity to you could miss out on a lot of money if the game does really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably happens a lot.
It happened with the author for The Witcher. He did a buyout with CD Projekt Red, like not a whole lot of money, and then that series slowly built up to be one of the biggest games of all time. and kind of lost out on a lot of stuff.
Biggest game in Poland for sure.
Oh yeah, they were the Valve of Poland for sure.
The Valve of Poland.
Yeah,
that's what we all aspire to be.
Didn't I say that they were the death block of Poland? That like the entire,
half
of their economy is built on CD Projekt Red sales.
Yeah, you did. You made that joke once. That's great.
Are compositions now featured on like DLC as like a DLC option, like extra pieces?
Not generally. Sometimes there'll be like a DLC package for a game that's new content for the game. It's like a whole, it's a holistic thing, with a new area of the game with new gameplay, etc. And then there'd be new music tied into that. It's rare that you'd get like a DLC with like, oh, we added a bunch of music. Sometimes that happens in updates though.
Right.
Like once I did this game Monsters Ate My Birthday Cake.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just kind of behind schedule, and we released the game with like 15 songs or something, and I was just like, I was not happy with that amount of music for the game, and so I was just like, I told the developers, I was like, I want to keep writing music for this until I'm happy. So I wrote like 30 more tracks, and then we pushed them in an update, like really kind of discreetly, and then we didn't really tell anybody. And I personally I didn't really like talk to anybody about the game until my music was all in there, and I was like, hey, I worked on this game. Check it out.
Nice. Did you do the same thing with the Guitar Hero franchise? That could be a better leading question. Are you concerned about
what
synchronized music from lesser known acts for exposure?
What
am I concerned for synchronized music
for like other acts? It's
like when they put band music in video games.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like getting replaced.
Yeah, for play. But like you know how like they would like a lot of smaller bands would like push for TV synchronization in TV shows.
No, I'm not worried about that at all.
Okay.
I mean,
He's like, I'm fucking Disasterpeace, man.
I really like when creators bring in games, when creators bring in musicians that are not familiar with games to work, because it's like bringing in new voices to the platform. Yeah. There are not that many game composers, like freelance game composers, successful freelance game composers. It's a pretty small community of people, and so. A lot of the same people, you see the same names a lot. So, it's nice when, you see new
those fresh faces come out.
You see new faces, you see, you hear new stuff, new styles, new influences. I think that's great. But at the same time, doing music for games, it's a rabbit hole, and you can get really deep and really technical, and there's a lot to know, and there's a lot that people may not know. So, people who have been in it for a while, who do this stuff, their skills are invaluable.
Yeah. That's why I'm super excited. And it's sort of a general thing that applies to like all the different aspects of it. That's why I'm super excited for like Sonic Mania to come out next week.
Oh yeah, I have a friend who worked on that.
Yeah. So like, do you guys know about Sonic Mania and like?
I'm aware of it.
Like the making of. So it's like.
What are you getting at? Though? I don't know what you're getting at.
Yeah, but like the entire game was like commissioned by Sega. They commissioned like a bunch of fan creators who created like fan hacks and mods.
Thank God.
For Sonic emulation to create like an original Genesis / Sega Saturn style Sonic game, but it's all like people who used to make just like fan creations of Sonic stuff.
Somebody did a video on that, right? A really good video. Did you show me that video?
Maybe.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
But I mean, like, it's also pretty significant because it also came in the wake of like Nintendo taking down like any and all fan creations of their stuff by fan stuff, like the Metroid 2 remake that the guy made.
Yeah.
Who's now working. He actually just got a job at the company that's making the Ori sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Sure.
He got hired by them.
I mean,
really?
To be fair, like Nintendo has a lot to lose, and Sega has absolutely nothing to lose.
they've got nothing. They've been going downhill for a while.
Game and ever.
Oh God.
But I mean, it was an interesting coincidence that Nintendo is like hammering down on all these different fan stuff, and then like Sega comes in and embraces it and actually commissions to make an official game coming out, and that I'm
it's great.
So beyond excited about it. Sonic the Hedgehog was like the very first game I ever played when I was like 3 years old, so like it has a very special place in my heart, and it seems like they've nailed it, like everything so far, especially the music. T-Lopes is fucking awesome and his soundtrack has been on point. Every every little track that they've released has been like totally Sonic. I'm super excited for it. But yeah, I think it's really cool for like a big company like Sega to commission fans of their stuff to create a project for them. That's something that they've been passionate about this whole time.
They seem pretty desperate, but I'm glad that they're like open-minded.
Yeah,
That's experimental as hell. I love that though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
That's like a huge like that's kind of taking a big big risk there. But
I guess Nintendo has been diving into user-created content too, but they're more like
Mario
Apple.
Maker and
They like
stuff.
to control their.
Yeah,
they make their own thing for people to build stuff in, like Mario Maker and stuff like that, as opposed to.
But that was great. That was like that went super viral. Like that was a great marketing move.
Oh yeah,
People
absolutely.
like look at my crazy Mario Maker level. You know.
I mean, because
all
like
about that.
Sonic, from what I know about the new Sonic game, it was like, it was engineered in some like crazy like, it was like reverse engineered or something using old like Sonic code or something. Like that's like how they started. So the whole thing
they
was
started.
made in,
I know
like,
they
some
started with
crazy
like updates and
environment.
HD remakes of like Sonic 2, Sonic CD, Sonic CD and stuff like that. That was like some of their first stuff, was getting those onto like mobile or tablets and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they had to do some crazy tech work to make that happen.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, yeah, that's really great.
How was your beefing experience? Was it as good for you as it was for us?
You don't have to answer that. That's an optional question.
No, it's not.
No, he's just asking.
What?
He's asking you, did you have a good time? Basically, did you have a good time?
How was
coming
this
in?
experience for you? Was this good? Was this?
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah,
It was fun.
yeah.
I have no complaints.
All right.
Yeah.
All's well.
Oh God. Yeah, man. But yeah, I guess we'd just like to thank you for coming on and
Yeah.
and
This has been a true honor. Yeah.
It's been
Oh.
great.
I mean, I know Ryan and I especially are huge fans of your stuff, so it's really a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's really a pleasure to get to talk to you. It's been really awesome.
And I'm treating you like a normal stranger.
Like an asshole.
I'm just feeding
Like
you.
a
You don't
total
know how much I
asshole.
appreciate that.
I thought you might.
Jesus. But
Thanks, yo. Woo.
yeah, man. Yeah, thank you so much for coming all the way out here and doing this for us, and giving us your opinions, which we've been so interested in. We hope like it was interesting for you. You liked the questions and everything. So
Yes.
yeah, man.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming out. Rich Vreeland puts out a lot of music under Disasterpeace, video games, movies, all sorts of goodies. Thank you once again. Over here with Bobby Thayer, sound designer.
Thank you
over
very
at-
much for having me. It's been fun.
Sound designer over at Obsidian. They make good games.
You got
Knack
it.
3.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Knack 3 Half-Life 4 coming out. Coming at you.
Well, to be fair, we are doing constant updates for Pillars of Eternity 2. If you guys check out the Fig page, I'm sure you can keep seeing updates on that. I don't think there's a hard release date on it yet, but that's kind of our big thing. We hope you check it out and just keep that game alive. It's been
PC?
going really well.
Yeah.
PC, yeah.
And we've got our glorious founder, Punish Steve, being the
Yeah,
adversary. being the
I'm
devil's advocate
I'm
today.
playing adversary, and I'm playing all the roles today.
Well, thank you for your engineering prowess and getting us all in the box. So, and I'm Ryan, and I work on a bunch of shit that no one likes. Have fun. Later. Is that my send off? I don't know.
We're gonna end with that. We're gonna end with